You know, we're all governed by these invisible rules. They tell us how to act, how to interact, and yeah, how we judge each other every single day. But if you ever stop to think where these rules even come from, and are they changing? Well, today we're gonna dive into a massive global study that's finally decoding the unwritten rules of our social world. And trust me, what they found might just surprise you. All right, so let's start with a really simple idea that pretty much shapes our entire social world. It's something we almost never think about, but we follow it constantly. I mean, really think about it for a second. There's no law that says you have to get in that queue for your morning coffee. Nobody's gonna arrest you. You just do it, right? That automatic unspoken agreement, that is a perfect example of a social norm in action. And that's exactly what social norms are. They're like the invisible traffic rules for our social lives. They tell us how to greet somebody, when to stop talking and listen. Basically, they're the shared understanding of what's appropriate and what's not. And honestly, they're what keeps society from just turning into total chaos. So if you really want to understand these rules, you can't just look in your own backyard. Researchers realized they had to think bigger, a lot bigger. So they put together this huge investigation that spanned the entire globe. So the heroes of our story today are a team of researchers from the Institute for Future Studies in Stockholm. And their goal was just incredibly ambitious. They wanted to create a global map of all these unwritten rules. And this is the really cool part, to see how that map has been completely redrawn over time. And when I say ambitious, I mean it. Let's just wrap our heads around the scale of this thing. They collected data from 90, that's 90, different societies around the world. In those societies, they surveyed more than 25,000 people to get their take on what is and isn't acceptable behavior. And here's the kicker, the real genius move. They compared all of this new data to a similar study from 20 years ago. So for the first time, we have this incredible before and after snapshot of our social world. So after all that work, what did they find? Well, the core discovery is this. If you want to understand why norms are so different all over the world, you have to look deeper. You have to look at the different moral values that people hold. Let's break that down. The study found that societies tend to lean towards one of two big moral frameworks. On one hand, you've got what they call an individualistic morality, and on the other, a group-focused morality. These two different starting points end up creating completely different sets of unwritten rules. So in societies with an individualistic morality, everything is about protecting the individual. This means they really value things like care, which is just being kind and not harming other people, and liberty, your personal freedom. It all really boils down to making sure the rights of each person are protected. Now, flip that completely on its head. In places with a group-focused morality, the individual kind of takes a backseat to the community. The priorities totally shift. Now what's important is group cohesion, keeping everyone together and strong, purity, which means avoiding behaviors that are seen as indecent, and of course maintaining social order. And this table just shows it perfectly. Look at how these different values change the rules. Telling a vulgar joke at work? Well, in an individualistic society, you could argue that's just freedom of speech, liberty, so the norm is more permissive. But in a group-focused society, it could violate that value of purity, so it's a big no-no. Or how about talking really loudly on your phone in a quiet cafe? That's seen as super inconsiderate in an individualistic culture because it violates the care for others' peace. It's amazing, right? The why behind the rule is everything. Okay, so that's the why norms are different in different places. But now let's get to what I think is the most fascinating part of this whole thing, the when. How have all these rules changed over the last 20 years? Are we getting stricter or are we loosening up? Well, the biggest finding, coming straight from the researchers, is that there is a clear global trend. Over the past 2 decades, societies all over the world have generally moved towards being more permissive. In other words, things that used to be a big deal are becoming, well, more acceptable. But hold on a minute. Does that mean it's just a total free-for-all now, that anything goes? Is every single behavior we can think of now more okay than it was 20 years ago? Turns out the data had a really interesting surprise for us. And this is the paradox at the heart of the study. While we're becoming more permissive overall, there's a very specific set of behaviors where we've actually become much, much stricter. So what are we cracking down on? Inconsiderate behaviors. Things that directly and negatively affect other people. And this connects right back to that individualistic value of care. It seems that as our societies value personal freedom more, we also value the freedom from being bothered or disrespected by other people too. Makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Okay, so we've got this complex picture, right? Norms are different across cultures, they're becoming more permissive overall, but we're getting stricter in some key areas. So what? Why does any of this actually matter for us? Well, this research is so much more than just an academic exercise. It's like a practical guide to our modern world. It gives us a new lens to understand cultural differences, which is absolutely essential in the world we live in today. It helps us guess how our own social rules might keep changing. But I think, most importantly, it holds up a mirror and forces us to see the invisible forces that guide our own lives every single day. Which leaves us with one last thing to chew on. Think about all the unspoken social rules you follow without even a second thought. Based on everything we've just talked about, which one of those do you think just might not exist at all in another 20 years?